In this tutorial I'm going to talk about the relations of the kidneys, so its location in relation to other structures in the abdomen, and I'll talk about some of the external features of the kidneys. So in another tutorial I'll talk about the internal structure of the kidneys. So the function of the kidneys is really to filter blood and excrete waste and excess water as urine. And it also regulates blood pressure, blood pH, blood volume, and it's important in salt balance and sort of electrolyte balance. So let's just bring some other structures in and take a look at the sort of relative location of the kidneys. So you can see here that they sit sort of on the posterior abdominal wall, and they sit either side of the vertebra. So they sit at roughly the level of T12 down to L3. So we've got T12 up here and L3 is down here, so they're not quite shown as extending quite that far, but most textbooks say they extend from T12 down to L3. So if I just bring in the rest of the abdominal organs, fade away the muscles again, we can see how the kidneys sit behind these organs. So they sit quite far back in the abdomen, so they sit on the posterior abdominal wall. And the kidneys are retroperitoneal, so they're not contained within the folds of peritoneum, which some of the other organs of the abdominal cavity are. So each kidney has a superior and an inferior pole, and medially you've got this kind of vertical slit where various structures enter and exit the kidney, and this is called the hilum. So the structure you can see here coming out of the kidneys is called the ureter, but you also have the artery and vein, the renal artery and vein entering the kidney, and you've also got nerves and lymphatics. So I've just brought in the cardiovascular system here, and you can see the large inferior vena cava and the abdominal aorta here, and coming off it you can see the renal veins and arteries on either side entering the hilum together with the ureter. So I mean, on this model it's not really demonstrated that well. They're kind of shown just sticking onto this side of the kidney, but they actually enter medially into this vertical little slit into the inside of the kidney, and this is called the hilum. So the hilum lies at vertebral level L1, so this is L1 vertebra. So we'll just take a quick look at some of the posterior relations of the kidney. So if we look at the back, we can see that the 12th rib lies behind the kidney, and if I bring in some other structures like some of the musculature, we can see some of the muscles which sit behind it. So you can see the psoas major on either side sits behind it, so it's this muscle here on either side. And you've got the diaphragm, so the posterior parts of the diaphragm sitting behind the kidney. You've got the quadratus lumborum, which is this muscle here. So it's kind of obscured in this model by the huge psoas major muscle. So if I just rotate it around to the front, you can see that the quadratus lumborum is hidden because the psoas major is so big in this model. And then you've also got the transversus abdominis muscle, which is not shown in this model. And then you've got a couple of nerves. So you've got the subcostal nerve, the iliohypogastric nerve, and the ilioinguinal nerves. So you can see these two here. So you can see the iliohypogastric and the ilioinguinal nerve here. So that's what lies behind both the kidneys. But what lies in front of the kidneys is different for the right and the left kidney. So we'll take a look first at the right kidney. So if you look at the kidneys from this view, you can see that the right kidney is slightly lower than the left kidney. And there's a reason for this. It's because of this large organ, the liver, which sits on top of it. So the right lobe of the liver is quite big and it sort of pushes it down. So the right kidney is a little bit lower than the left kidney. So I'll get rid of that, and we can see what else is in front of the kidney and the gallbladder. So you can see the colon runs in front of the kidney, so you can see the hepatic flexure, or the right colic flexure, lies in front of the kidney. So it runs in front of the lower part of the kidney, the inferior pole of the kidney. That's the hepatic flexure. Get rid of that. And now you can see that the descending part of the duodenum sits in front of the medial part of the kidney. So the descending part of the duodenum is retroperitoneal as well, and it sits right up against the kidney. And if I just rotate the model around a bit further, you can see the this thing on top of the kidney. So this is the suprarenal gland, or the adrenal gland. So I've just brought those structures back, and we'll take a look at what sits in front of the left kidney. So you can already see a lot of it anyway. So the other side of the colon sits in front of the left kidney. So we've got the splenic flexure, or the left colic flexure. So I'll just get rid of that. And then you can see the stomach and the spleen sitting in front of it. Get rid of those two. And then you can see the end of the pancreas sitting in front of it as well. So the pancreas is a retroperitoneal structure, whereas the stomach and spleen are both intraperitoneal structures. And then it's also got this suprarenal gland sitting on top of it, so the other adrenal gland. So hopefully that's orientated you a bit, and you know exactly where the kidneys lie now. And next we'll talk a little bit about the capsules of the kidney and the blood supply to the kidney. Then we'll do another tutorial on the internal structure.
The renal system consists of the kidneys, the connecting arteries and veins, and the urinary tract. The kidneys are paired, bean-shaped organs lying outside the peritoneal cavity in the back of the upper abdomen, one on each side of the vertebral column. The kidneys function as the body's main excretory organs, eliminating the body's metabolic waste products by filtering the blood. Substances that are unneeded or are present in excess are filtered out of the blood and form into urine, moving via the ureter into the bladder before being expelled through the urethra. The kidneys also selectively reabsorb those substances that are needed to maintain the normal composition of the blood. By adjusting blood composition, the kidneys are able to maintain blood volume and pressure, ensure the proper balance of sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, hydrogen, phosphate, and pH, and eliminate products of metabolism such as urea, uric acid, and creatinine. The medial border of the kidney is indented by a deep fissure called the hilus, where the blood vessels, nerves, and ureters connect to the kidney. The kidney is composed of up to 18 lobes. Each lobe is composed of nephrons. Nephrons are the functional units of the kidney, and each kidney contains more than 1 million nephrons. Each nephron consists of a glomerulus and a system of tubules. The glomerulus is a unique, high-pressure mass of capillaries that filters the blood. The glomerulus is encased in a thin, double-walled capsule called Bowman's capsule. The space inside the capsule and surrounding the glomerulus is called Bowman's space. Plasma-like fluid is filtered from the capillary blood into Bowman's space through the glomerular filtration membrane. The glomerular filtration membrane consists of 3 layers of capillary wall: the endothelium, the basement membrane, and the epithelium. This membrane allows some particles from the blood to pass through, but not all. The fluid that is filtered from the capillary blood into the Bowman's space is called filtrate and forms the primary urine. The filtrate then diffuses across Bowman's space and into the tubule system of the nephron. In the tubules, some substances are added to the filtrate as part of the urine formation, and some substances are reabsorbed out of the filtrate and back into the blood. The nephron tubule is divided into 4 segments. The filtrate passes through each of these segments before reaching the ureter. A highly coiled segment called the proximal convoluted tubule, which drains Bowman's capsule and where almost complete absorption of nutritionally important substances takes place. A thin looped structure called the loop of Henle, which reabsorbs water and ions from the urine and plays a role in controlling the concentration of urine. A distal coiled portion called the distal convoluted tubule, which regulates potassium, sodium, and pH, and where further dilution of the urine takes place. And the collecting tubule, which joins with several tubules to collect the filtrate and where final sodium regulation takes place. Each kidney is supplied with blood by a single renal artery that arises on its respective side of the aorta before dividing into 5 segmental arteries that enter the hilus. Within the kidney, each segmental artery branches into several lobular arteries. The lobular arteries further subdivide to form interlobular arteries, which branch off into afferent arterioles. Blood flows into the glomeruli through the afferent arterioles. Blood flows out of the glomerulus through the efferent arteriole. The afferent and efferent arterioles regulate glomerular capillary pressure by selectively dilating or constricting. The kidney's venous blood, now filtered, flows from the glomerulus via the efferent arterioles into the peritubular capillary network, a low-pressure, reabsorptive system surrounding all portions of the tubules. This arrangement permits rapid movement of solutes and water between the fluid in the tubular lumen and the blood in the capillaries. The peritubular capillaries rejoin to form the venous channels by which blood leaves the kidneys and empties into the inferior vena cava. Urine formation involves the filtration of the blood by the glomerulus to form an ultrafiltrate of urine, the tubular reabsorption of electrolytes and nutrients needed to maintain the constancy of the internal environment, and the secretion of waste materials. Filtration occurs as blood flows into the glomerulus from its afferent arteriole, and plasma moves through the glomerular capillaries into Bowman's space. From Bowman's space, the glomerular filtrate moves into the tubular segments of the nephron. Here, through tubular reabsorption, electrolytes and nutrients move from the filtrate back into the bloodstream. Here also, through tubular secretion, substances move from the peritubular capillaries into the urine filtrate. The filtrate concentrates in the collecting tubules, then finds its way to the renal pelvis, where it is directed to the ureter, the bladder, and the urethra for elimination. The kidneys perform